Hello, I'm Sean Thomas, and today I'm going to go over my Project 1 for EGR 425, um, the weather app. Um, so Overall, here's my new layout. As you can see, it shows the temperature at the top left, a smaller version of the icon on the top right. The low and high are now underneath the larger temperature. Um, and now the city name should be centered on one line, and it shouldn't wrap. It should now the center now the name should be centered on the one line and shouldn't wrap, and it will resize according to the length of the name. And now there's a timestamp right below the city name. So I'm gonna look through the requirements. So for the first one, as you can see, it's currently in Fahrenheit. But just a quick disclaimer, as you can see here in the API itself, the value is extremely high. So that's not a logic issue on my end. That's just an API issue on their end. Um, I'm not sure why it's so high, but uh, it's like that for some reason. So if we click the first A button, it should convert it to C or Celsius. As you can see there, now Mountain View's temperature is 142 Celsius. And then we can click it again to go back to Fahrenheit. As you can see there. Um, and then as you can see, the timestamp is there as well. That should update with each blink. You can see it updating. Um, so the zip code edit screen, I'm gonna quickly go through some zip codes. The first one is gonna be Washington, DC. So when you click the B button, it should go to the zip code screen. Uh, some of these triangles on the top and bottom are for making the digit go up or down for each of the 5 digits to get to the zip code you want. So for Washington, DC, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go all the way to 2 on this one. It's a little hard to do with my phone in my hand. Two, um, zero, 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 and then one. And this should take us to Chino. No, this is Washington. Um, so you can see there, Washington's centered in the middle of the screen. And the timestamp's still there. And then we can still change the uh, unit from Fahrenheit to Celsius. As you can see there. And then we can click it again to change it back to Fahrenheit. Um, then if we want to go back to the zip code screen, we can do that as well. Um, and then now to go to Chino, we need to go to 91708. So there's 9, 1, 7, 0, and then 8. And now when we go back, it should show us Chino. As you can see, it's centered in the middle of the screen, and it should be a little larger because the text Chino was smaller than Washington. Um, so it's allowed to be larger. And once again, you can change the um, units from Fahrenheit to Celsius by clicking the A button. And then we can go back from Celsius to Fahrenheit by clicking the A button again. Um, so that should be all the features. One more feature I did want to show that I made. If I go to the zip code screen, if I do like a random zip code, and if it doesn't exist, I guess it doesn't exist, but Um, as you can see, the text does shrink, like I said. That's a better example, but I want to find one that doesn't exist. So we find one that doesn't exist. There's an error code. It's a little fuzzy on my phone, but it shows that there's an invalid zip code, which is 91148. And that's just error handling so that the program doesn't break um, if we get an invalid response from the API. So I believe that's all the features I want to show on the uh, M5. I'm just going to look through them real quick. Um, Display screen is updated. We have the conversion, timestamp, new weather screen. Um, then we have the zip code edit screen. As you can see here, there is 10 buttons on the for 5 on the top and 5 on the bottom. And like I previously showed, they update. Uh, the screen isn't so finicky. Um, they update when you click up or down. Um, but yeah, that's how the zip code edit screen works. And then regardless if it's valid or it's not valid, when you turn to the zip code edit screen, it will save the last save edit or last save zip code. Um, so I believe that's all the features I need to demo. Um, I demoed that for Washington, DC, and Chino. So I think I'm gonna look through the code now. So here are a bunch of my functions that I have. Um, and here's like the main loop. So every loop is going to check if the button A is pressed or button B is pressed. If button A is pressed, it's going to toggle the Fahrenheit from whatever it is to the opposite of it. It starts as true to have Fahrenheit be the default value. Um, but if it's clicked, it should go to the opposite value. And then inside of here, what happens is it will have this temp symbol. Temp symbol changes to Celsius if if it is Fahrenheit. Um, if it's not Fahrenheit, and if it's not Fahrenheit, then temp now, temp min, and temp max are all converted into the Celsius version of whatever the temperature is. If not, it would just stay the same. So temp now will always exist, temp max will always exist, temp min will always exist. And those values would just simply get drawn onto the LCD screen. Um, so I believe all this code is the same, so I'm not going to discuss that. Um, Build triangles is, I guess I'll discuss that when I discuss all this. So this essentially converts UTC to PST. Um, so how this works is um, I use time client to update from the libraries that I'm using, and this will get the current time from UTC. But this will be used to transform it into PST, so it's easier for us to understand, I guess. And then um, this is a simple GET request. I believe it was already part of the starter code. And then this essentially is all of the info from the weather API request. Um, I did a little bit of error handling in case the API's zip code is invalid, and then it returns all the values that are displayed on the screen. Um, this code essentially draws the maximum size that the city can be, and then gives it a Y value. Um, and then this right here does all the drawing for everything pretty much. This was already pretty much part of the starter code, but I just moved into a function to make it a little easier to read. And then this function draws a triangle. So a triangle is defined up here. It takes in the points that I believe are already part of C++, and then it takes in a name. So 3 points make a triangle on the button. And then the draw triangle function, what it does is it will draw a line between all 3 of the points. Um, so yeah, it draws a line between all 3 of those points with the whatever color it is, which is I think currently white. Um, Build triangles. Essentially, we'll build all 10 triangles. It starts with these points for the first triangles on the left, and then it has these values that it will move right by. Um, All right, now these are the values it moves right by, and then these are the starting values. Um, but yeah, essentially just build all 10 triangles, and then it puts into the triangles vector. This function detects if a point that's clicked on the screen is inside of a triangle, and then returns true. This function just draws a digit simply at an x and y position. This function calls this function, and it will draw the zip code digits. This function converts the zip code array um, into an integer. This function will update the value of the numbers on press of one of the triangles. Um, so how this function works is that it will take in a triangle. The triangles are named either top or bottom. I believe 1 through 5, or it might be 0 through 4. I think it's 1 through 5, and then it maps through 0 through 4 of the array length. So how it works is it looks at top or bottom, and depending on that, it will either increment or decrement the position of the array +1, or I guess -1. Um, yeah, -1 because of zero indexing. And this function I believe is already part of the starter code. So the main loop inside of, or the main logic inside of update is if it's draw mode, it's going to draw the screen, which is all the weather information. Um, and I believe I already discussed all of this. But if it's not his draw mode, it's going to draw the zip code editor. So it's going to have a black background. For each triangle in the triangle vector, it's going to draw the triangle. Then it's going to draw the zip code digits. And then the touch point essentially is where the screen's touched, which is P. And then if P.x is inside of the screen, which is greater than or equal to 0, touch will equal P.x and P.y. And then if that value, which is a point, is inside of any of the triangles, as you can see here, it iterates for each triangle. If it's inside of that value, it's going to do a debug print, and then it's going to update the zip code based on where that triangle is clicked. Because of the triangle's name that's passed in, which will tell the function which one needs to be updated. And then delay makes it so that you can switch screens, and that you can also update the screen or the zip code screen by pressing it correctly and accurately. Um, so I believe that's everything I need to show. Um, and yeah, so yeah, that's my weather app for Project 1 for EGR 425.